Hello and welcome to Punishment Beer Club, in which I, Matthew Britton, will be reviewing some gluten-free beers and stouts and whatever else for your own enjoyment and for mine. For full disclosure, I about half an hour ago reviewed another beer, the Citra IPA, also by First Chop. So if anyone's really got asked, that might affect my palate there. If you seriously believe that, Jesus, it's just beer in it. In this episode, I'll be reviewing First Chop's Pod, which is a vanilla stout. As I said before, First Chop are a brewery based here in Manchester, Salford, and they make largely gluten-free beers, but usually something a bit more exotic than just your standard gluten-free lager, dour down. So yeah, more stuff like more actual craft stuff, which is what I'm into. I was into when I could easily drink gluten without it affecting my body incredibly adversely. So to have a look at the label, it's again done by Sun Chow. It's again very, very beautiful and shows off the fact that they do modern British ale. In terms of ingredients, again, this one's not a naturally gluten-free recipe as you'd probably expect from a stout, but is instead something that has been brewed to be under the 20 parts per million celiac UK guidelines for what is okay for people with celiac or gluten intolerance to be okay with ingesting. So it does have deglutenized malted barley wheat and oat wort in this one. Oat wort, as well as yeast, hops and vanilla pods, as well as water obviously, which you can see. It's got that lovely gluten certified cross through a wheat, which means it's okay to drink for the internally damaged, like you and I, or maybe not you, maybe you just like drinking gluten-free beers for your own enjoyment, which is okay. So it's, once again, all gluten-free, all First Chop beers only have 3 letters in the title. This one's POD, Pod, not the band. It's a vanilla stout, it's only 4.2%. But the great thing about this is that I, over the last few years, have been more like over anything. I've preferred a darker beer, a stout, a smoked porter. Those have been my ideal beers, and having to move fairly recently into not being able to have gluten has meant that those, well, for a while I felt as if it might be a part of my life that I'd have to just completely cut out, that stouts might be dead to me. But the fact that First Chop are trying, or maybe succeeding, in creating stouts that the likes of me can drink is a real boon, let's say. Yeah, there's nothing else to talk about on the outside. Oh, this can was bought from Tiny's Tipple. I think it cost, they're all about the same range. It's like between 215 and 280. I think this might have been 280, could have easily just been 215. But it was sub £3, which considering the price brackets in Tiny Stipple is below average, and 215 is about the price you'd expect to pay in any bottle shop or in a bar, maybe £4. That's in Chorlton in Manchester, which is famed for being a bit of a rip-off because they can get away with it. Yeah, let's give it a pour. Oh god, very lively, it's fizzing everywhere. I say lively, it's probably just me shaking it out for the last 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll try pour it as best I can. That's abysmal, isn't it? That's what a flake with it, as an old man in a pub, as like we say. Yeah, in terms of aromas, you don't get that deep. I suppose it's biscuity stout smell. You don't really get that with this. It's you do get the vanilla coming through, but not too much. It's slightly creamier, which I guess comes from the oats that have been used. But it's very soft on the nose. And full disclosure, I prefer if I'm getting my dream stout, I prefer it to be quite aggressive on the nose. I like a stout that really overpowers you. It's kind of calmed down to the point where it's okay now. You see the colour, which is fairly dark, caramelly. The head slightly brown. Yeah, let's have a taste. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's not as the texture, the mouthfeel, as people like to say, which is a disgusting term, but I suppose better use it. The mouthfeel doesn't have the rich texture that you'd hope for in a traditional wheaty, gluten-y stout. Quite watery. It doesn't have the taste. It doesn't have the kind of complexity that you naturally hope for in a stout. But just as a warning, like, my ideal beers are the smoked porters, the imperial stouts, stuff where you pretty much need to eat it with a knife and a fork. Whereas this isn't trying to be that. This is trying to be a traditional stout, like I say, it's 4.2%. So you're never going to get the complexity, the depth at that percentage, even if it was using gluten. Though I would say that it's a little thin, and if you were trying, like if you were giving this to somebody who is used to gluten, they would probably notice, like they'd be aware of it, and probably ask not what was wrong but what was different. Whereas with some of the other first shop ales, like before I was gluten free, I drank them. I was quite happy with them, and had no complaints. Whereas this one, I feel I've been a little bit underwhelmed. Let's say one of my main worries when I realised that I might have to cut out gluten was it's not a worry, is it? It's not a worry, but I mean it's something that crossed my mind. And I thought, oh God, that's going to affect me. Is cutting out stouts, and even having this on the market and having it available to me in a shop around the corner has been a godsend. And yeah, for full disclosure, I've had this before, and yeah, I was very happy with it. I'll have another taste. Yeah, it's got a you don't get much on the nose, which I think is probably what affects its taste as well. Because if you had they could have easily packed this out with like a bad brew would have like just some salted caramel flavouring and give it some false depth, but because it's using like actual natural ingredients, it means that you don't get a lot of the depth, but it's pure, it's nice, it's clean. If you take a bigger glug, you do get more of the traditional stouty flavours. Personally, I've not had Guinness in years, but I've had other commercial stouts, and this isn't far off. It's just missing the texture on the tongue. Overall, it's quite inoffensive. You don't get much of the vanilla coming through. You can definitely taste it, but you'd expect, as it's a vanilla stout and it's called pod, it's not an incidental flavour, it's something that should be quite up there. I know that vanilla's quite expensive as an ingredient. I've tried using it in my own cooking before, but it just means that because they've probably had to be quite sparse with it, I think it's can be quite a difficult ingredient. You don't get much of you'd expect like more ice creamy flavour, but you don't get that. You just get like an aftertaste of it, and there's not much of the caramel or the biscuitiness that you might expect. They do get the creaminess, like a little bit of creaminess from the oats, but not much. Overall, yeah, it's a good beer. I think it's always going to be a massive challenge for any gluten-free brewery to do a stout or a porter, purely because of the levels of complexity that those styles of beers have got to in recent years. That mean that somebody like myself who has wasted hundreds of pounds, countless nights sound like a prick, but a lot of nights drinking very, very rich stouts and porters. It means that for somebody like me, it was always going to be a little bit thin, even if only because it was 4.2%. Yeah, you never get an imperial version either to win me over, but it's still a very good beer, and like the fact that it's available means that I continually go back to it and will continue be going back to it, because even for somebody like me, like an average stout or a below average porter is better than a good IPA, and it's an above average stout. It's definitely an above average stout. But as I say, compared to something loaded with gluten, you're just not going to get the depth that you might expect. Yeah, great beer. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be finishing this. Cheers.